everybody. Welcome to the March Lymphedema Patient Roundtable. We are ecstatic you're here with us tonight. It is also Lymphedema Awareness Month, so this is an extra special episode. We're always talking about lymphedema and lymphedema awareness, but even more so tonight. So as everybody starts joining and letting us know where you're coming from in the chat, I'm just going to do some introductions. You may see some newer faces here, maybe some you recognize. So I'm just going to go around our little Hollywood Squares board here. So first we have Angela Jones, a lipolymphedema patient. Hi, Angela.
Hello.
We have Catherine Rosenberg, who is a secondary lymphedema patient. And if you couldn't tell by her t-shirt, she's a math teacher and it's Pi Day. So everybody wish Catherine a happy mathematical Pi Day. We've got Karen Ashworth, a certified lymphedema therapist and fibrosis extraordinaire.
Hello.
We have Kelly Bell, our veteran fighting lymphedema and our fierce advocate. And we also have Steve Kantor joining us again this month. We had so much fun with him last month talking about all things pumps. So he's back again. He's the founder of Medical Solutions Supplier. And we also have the lovely Veronica Seneriz, who many of you probably know already as Lymphy Strong. She's a lymphedema patient advocate, and she also is the patient services director, I believe is your title, at Learn, Lymphatic Education and Research Network. So she's joining us here tonight too. So we are going to have a big, robust hour ahead of us. A reminder to put any Q&A questions in the Q&A box. There's a bar at the bottom of the screen with the Q&A button. Also, say hello in chat. We're happy to answer questions that you may have best we can. Medical questions, we prefer that you hold off for your care team, but we can always speak from experience here. So hi, everybody tuning in here. Natasha, Irene, Diane, Leela, everybody, we're so happy to see you. So we're just gonna jump right in, if you guys don't mind. I'd love to start with, right off the bat, Veronica, putting you on the hot seat, since you're a special new guest tonight. I love Veronica's story. If you guys aren't familiar with her and her story, she can tell you a little bit about it, I'm sure. But I especially find it interesting that Veronica is a multi-generational lymphedema patient. And earlier in the pre-show, we were talking about the blessing and the curse of having family members who live this experience as well. So Veronica, if you don't mind, could you talk a little bit about what it was like growing up in a lymphedema family?
Well, I think one word describes it, chaos. Chaos. I am, as Alexa noted, I am a multi-generational patient. My family is affected by lymphedema distichiasis syndrome, which is a form of lymphedema that affects the eyes, in that the genetic marker is a double row of eyelashes. And some might think that, oh, this is Hollywood and that's really cool, and maybe you're like Elizabeth Taylor. Nothing can be further from the truth. The extra row actually curls in. So if you can just imagine an eyelash constantly in your eye, or a fleck of dust, there's always that irritation that you feel. My grandfather, father, and 2 cousins and an uncle have all been impacted by this disease. It's been 3 generations, over 100 years. My father endured over 100 bouts of cellulitis in his lifetime. He went septic 3 times. So growing up as a child watching this, we never knew when he would be affected by a cellulitis bout. And so my mother always had a go bag ready to go, to take him to the ER, take him to the hospital. And so I had a realization as a child at a very, very young age that what it meant to have chronic illness and the limitations of my father. Just to provide one example, in learning how to ride a bike, something as simple as that, I begged my father, please take off the training wheels. I'm ready to go on my own. And he delayed it as far as he could. And now as an adult, I understand why. He sat me down and he said, we're going to take these training wheels off today. but when you're on the bike, I'm not going to be able to run after you. If you fall, you will fall on your own, and I won't be able to catch you. And if you begin to cry, we're going to put up the bike and we're going to go back inside. And so the reason he couldn't, chase me was because of his leg, which was a severe stage 3, stage 4. So I rode a bike very fast, fast learner. And, that's just, a part of what it's like to grow up. But part of the blessing is I was not alone, and he was not alone. And so as an adult, we went through that journey together, and I just can't imagine being, alone with this disease, for the better part of my life, like most of you on this panel. Hats off to you.
So special that you two had that to bond and learn together. And I think that's such a beautiful testament to your father too, the work that you've done for the community and with your lymphedema diagnosis. It's just so admirable too. And we talk a lot about community here at the Roundtable. And I think in light of Lymphedema Awareness Month, I'd love to hear around the panel, go around the table and ask all of our lovely panelists, what are things that you wish you had known or heard when you were first diagnosed, be it just treatment wise or emotionally? What would have really made that difference for you, that people tuning in who might be newly diagnosed or supporting loved ones who are diagnosed, what might help them as well? And I won't call on anybody and put them on the spot, but if anyone feels moved to speak, and Karen, you're also obviously welcome to tune in with this too, and Steve as well. But patience, if you have anything. Kelly, go ahead.
Yeah, I think maybe what I learned for me and what made change, like what moves things for me from going to where I thought I was alone into where I wasn't, and then figuring things out. And it really was like, I really wish I'd known about social media stuff. And when I finally did that, that's how Veronica and I met. And we started talking. We got into Learn, being part of Learn, open doors, gave me knowledge, access to people, then going to conferences, becoming an advocate. And it really does change no matter what you're going through, because mine's like a roller coaster. I think I got it, and no, I don't. But like having a community that kind of understands, if they don't fully, but then the access to the knowledge and the people that you get, and then what they learn from you. I mean, so I think the best thing that ever happened to me was linking with Veronica, to be honest with you, on social media and her group that she started, so yeah, that's my advice to anybody. It's like, don't sit at home, don't be quiet. Get to your doctors, get to these conferences, get to be an advocate. It's hard. I'm not going to kid you. But it's important. So important. So
I get emotional when Kelly shares that story, because I saw him go from point A to point B. When I met Kelly, he was in a very dark place. And I guess we connected because we were both from Texas or something. And to see him now and the fierce advocate that he is, especially with what he's done with the Department of Defense on behalf of Learn, and meeting with over 70 congressmen on the Hill to talk about why we need a national lymphatic commission or a national commission on lymphatic diseases. As that moves forward, that will literally change over 300 million lives. And he has been on the forefront of that quietly behind the scenes. But he has done so much work, and I'm very honored to know him. Thank you so much.
Yeah, well, thank you. I mean, to be honest with you, being around people like you and the rest of the group, it keeps me going because, like, you tell the story of your dad, right? But what you don't tell the story is you're a mom and you're in the same position as your dad. So in 2019, when I was on Capitol Hill advocating, I had my son who asked to skip school in his senior year on his 18th birthday with me. He said, "Can I go with you?" And I'm like, "Yeah." I was like, "They're going to ask you how this impacts you." And when your 18-year-old son says he spent most of his life growing up wondering if he's going to find his dad dead in the morning, I don't want anybody else's kids to go through that. So if you want to know what my motivation is, it's all you guys. And it's like, Veronica tells one part of her story, but I'm the other part of that. I know what her son's gone through, but they won't complain. It's part of their lives, and it shouldn't be. And I don't think it has to be. I really don't. I think there's cures. So sorry to get emotional about it because it is.
It is
Don't
emotional.
apologize. It's
It is.
emotional.
It's part of being human. It's part of, it's also a testimony to the power of the human spirit. I'm always saying everyone has a story. Everyone, no matter how severe or how mild you are, everyone has some side of this disease that they can share that can help other human beings. Follow this road just with a little less burden.
Yeah. Well, and just testimony to you, when you talk about the changes, is like there was one point in time where I was suicidal. If anybody's ever been in my presentation, I will tell you, I actually had a gun in my head at one. I mean, really was seriously that close. And so I got to there, and then I got anger, and I just sat in that spot. And so I just you'll hear me always say, find your peace, because that was a focus. Go to therapy, find my peace. But I needed a tool to help me stay there. And to be honest with you, this community, and you guys are part of this roundtable, right? And I'm talking about the people watching. This is your first steps to finding your peace and finding you're not alone. We've all been through. We're going through this. We're going through this stuff. We're all here together. We're learning. The community's learning things that I never saw 10 years ago. But that's why I tell people it's always important to stay together, because I've never been back to the suicidal point since then, just so you know. And that I've been angry, but I've never been to that point. And that's the point you never want to get to, because, if you hang around, you might make a difference.
Thank you, Kelly. You're always so vulnerable and honest, and I so appreciate that. And to kind of piggyback off what you're saying, it's so important to share our experiences in even the smallest little ways, because there's no one lymphedema experience. We're all different people, different ages, everything here. And yet we have that common thread, but it's all different experiences of it. So every little bit that we can share is going to resonate with somebody who sees your post on social media, or who sees your chat in the roundtable, or whatever it may be. And you don't know who you're helping and who you're reaching in that moment. So it's so important, and I'm so grateful to everyone, not just on the panel, but those tuning in. And we do have 2 panelists that tuned in during this conversation. So I'll introduce them real quick as we continue. First, we have Amanda Sobey, who's a lymphedema patient, certified personal trainer, nutritionist. She's also Madam President at the Lymphedema Association of Manitoba up in Canada. And we also have Nazreen Starner, who's a certified lymphedema therapist in Ohio. And we're so glad both of you are with us tonight. We were just talking about what we wish we had heard or learned or knew when we were first diagnosed. So Veronica and Kelly were kind of kicking off that conversation. So if anyone else wants to chime, Catherine, go ahead.
So I'm also going to chime in about the social media aspect,
Sure.
because after I had one of my very first lymphatic surgeries, actually that's how I connected with Vern as well, in terms of, being able to reach out and see support from various people across the country for lymphatics. But I think the more relevant story for me is I was struggling about a year and a half ago and couldn't figure out what it was. And Kelly and I started, we were messaging back and forth during the roundtable, and led to a conversation that was probably almost a 2-hour conversation after the roundtable was over. And because it's something that he had mentioned had sparked in my brain of what the heck is going on. And in the end, he was right. And it really led to helping me to get my central lymphatic diagnosis and then eventually get repaired. So even though Kelly said, that he's behind the scenes in so many ways that people don't realize all the things that he really does. And he truly was the shoulder I needed throughout this entire difficult process for me. And he was right there. It didn't matter what time of day it was. There was times I would message him and he'd be like, please don't message me because my phone tells me that you're messaging me at 4 o'clock in the morning. However, he was always there. And even when I was struggling, he was there for my family. And that meant so much to all of us. And that's what's very unique about this lymphatic community, is the fact that we are all there for each other in various ways. Even if we've never physically met each other, we're there through social media, and we can communicate with each other through that in various ways. And I've learned a lot from social media because of that.
Well, it's an honor. I mean, that's what we do, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's just, you don't think about it. I mean, except for, I'll tell you guys a funny thing. So she would text me something like, oh, I'm like dying, and then go dark. And this would be like at 6 o'clock. And I'm like texting, are you okay? Are you okay? Calling, hey, or like nothing, leaving messages. Then she'd wake up at midnight. I'm okay. And I'm like, what the? So get ready. It's difficult when you're not there but yeah.
Hey,
I
Alexa.
also have an observation to share about Catherine. I first met Catherine in person in 2019 at the National Lymphedema Network conference in Orlando, Florida. The first day I met her, she was so shy. She was shy about meeting other people and engaging, and like, come on, Catherine, come sit with me, And that first day, that second day, as the conference progressed and she met more and more people, she just blossomed. It was like watching a flower open up, and to see that shy person that I met way back. No, it wasn't 2019, it was 2017. Sorry, 17.
I was going to say,
5
she was
years
not shy
now.
in 2019.
The person from 5 years ago to Lymphedema Roundtable patient advocate. You were a superstar, Catherine. Definitely.
Thank
Hey,
you.
Alexa.
Yeah.
Listening to all these people talking, when I first started the company in 1994, and Brenda being my neighbor, we were putting 4 or 5 pumps on a week, or, finding patients, stuff like that. I never knew how big the audience and how big the patient base is, because it still was not being diagnosed at that particular time by the doctors, by the vascular surgeons. They were wrapping and sending you home and saying that this is all we can do. Once we started seeing the number of patients that had this condition that we were able to treat, and that number kept growing year after year, we started getting involved in some of the doctors associations and some of the patient associations that were working with these patients, and realized how huge the population is and how much we can do, not just by providing the equipment and hopefully getting it covered by their insurance, but by gathering them together, which is what Brenda had obviously been involved in, and bringing them together. And it continued to grow, exponentially over the years, until we have this incredible network of people, not only that have the condition, but also the doctors, the therapists, everybody that helps that community and treats these people, on a daily basis. And we're just scratching the surface again about all these other people that now can find a place that they can talk about what their condition is, and also get the help they need, not just get the device, that we can provide.
Yeah. I want to take a little intermission to read some of the chats coming through about this as well. First, we have a message from Sandy. Hi, Sandy, from Apopka. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. She says this is her first time she's new, and she watched the February roundtable last night, and it's amazing how much she learned. She said, what a wonderful thing we're doing. And we have Dee from Florida who says these roundtables have become a source of knowledge and comfort for her. Just knowing we're not alone means so much. Judy says she's really learning from this group. And MJ, who is a regular at our roundtable, says, because of this group, I decided to get a new diagnosis after decades knowing I had lymphedema, but found out from Dr. Chen at the Cleveland Clinic that I also have bilateral lipedema that has changed my whole understanding of my condition and outlook for the future. That's amazing.
That's
We have
awesome.
more coming into Karen. So happy to know you're
I'm
not.
glad, and to talk about Steve being on one of the things when you become an advocate and you go to these conferences, you at first approach them, well, they're selling you products, and there are some out there that do that. And so if you want to go, if you want to find out, go to the conference. But there are certain booths you'll walk up to, and Lymphopress is definitely one of them, and they truly want to help you. I mean, there are those companies, and that there are, a number of vendors that I have friendships with, and I know, and I'm like, it's nothing that I use, but hey, contact this person. And so I can't say it enough. I know they cost money, and if this is all you can do, I hope it helps. We're trying to do all we can, but and try to give you as much information. But as I was saying, the vendors are they're just as important to advocacy as the patient.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Lymphopress has always been at the top, not only of the actual products themselves and the features that they continue to improve on, but also they were also involved in getting the studies done and working with some of the Learn and some of the other ones that have come about because of the numbers of people that are looking for answers and therapists. And so they were the ones that we chose to be exclusive for. And that was because we felt that they did the best in the product and the best getting the word out and the best in terms of bringing all of these people together, the clinicians, the therapists, to be able to help the patients.
We got a question
That's
that
true.
came in that sounds like a Karen or Nazreen question. I would love for them to jump on this. Judy asked, I was afraid to use my Lymphopress as someone told me it can cause blood clots. Is this true? Therapists, clear the air.
No, pneumatic compression actually prevents blood clots.
Yep.
Yep.
I would agree completely with Karen that, yeah, I've actually had patients, not just blood clots, but reduced risk of cellulitis to people who have had incidents of that. So there's a lot of benefit from that. And I, not to not answer your question, but if you do suspect you're having a blood clot, that would be something you definitely do want to check up with your doctor about. Just to get back to what Steve was saying, we are having a lot of great sponsorship and support from Lymphopress for all of our patients. Sometimes we'll have people who can't afford pumps and they definitely need them, and they definitely always rise to the occasion and help us out when needed. And even this weekend in Cleveland, we are having a pediatric lymphedema fundraiser for Bryland's Feats, and thank you, Lymphopress, for helping to sponsor that. That's wonderful. So wonderful company. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nazreen, for sharing that. And we got a lovely.
The support is so consistent. When we had our Philly walk, our Learn Philly walk at the Philadelphia Zoo last year, Lymphopress was the biggest team, the biggest team online that created a group to fundraise. I mean, it was the highest fundraiser of the event, and it was like, wow. I think you had something like 75 people on your team. Support was amazing. I mean, hats off. That's really a testimony on how you can gather people so quickly.
Oh, thanks, Veronica. And being a patient who uses a Lymphopress and works at Lymphopress, I used a Lymphopress before I worked here, just for transparency's sake. But as patients, we can kind of sniff out when we're being kind of, sold to or pandered to or whatever it may be. And I can truly say LymphaPress has been, as an employee, as a patient, every aspect of it has been amazing, working with them and using their product. So I'm so grateful to them on many levels for what they do. And we got a lovely comment in chat from Jen Bell, who says, LymphaPress is amazing. I cannot say enough about the LymphaPress family and how helpful, kind, caring, and compassionate every team member is. We have never felt like LymphaPress was a company. It immediately felt like family. I cannot say thank you enough for that feeling, that love and support. And we're so happy we can provide that for you, and even though this is sponsored by LymphaPress, these roundtables, you don't need to use one to benefit from the support here. But if you're interested, you can email marketing@lymphapress.com, and we'd love to set you up with your local LymphaPress representative to learn more if you would like to.
Hey, Alexa,
Yeah.
I needed to have a commercial real quick about the fact that the patient experience that people have experienced, at LymphaPress. I take great honor in introducing the fact that my daughter is heads up that particular department. Chelsea Kantor has been my first rep when I first started the company, and she moved up slowly but surely as a rep, and then inside, and now she's the head of the patient experience, making sure the deliveries are done, making sure that the patient does their intake with our people, and kind of heads up that all of that stuff to make sure that the experience that the patients are getting is the best that we can possibly offer. So I'm very proud of her.
Yeah, she's great.
Yeah.
We've got a question from Charlotte Reimer, who says, conventional lymphedema modalities are no longer controlling my lymphedema, and my therapist suggested I get a surgical consult. I have struck out with the 2 physicians that do LVA, VLNT in Florida. Any suggestions of how to go about finding a reputable physician? Go ahead, Veronica.
If you contact Learn or visit the Learn website at lymphaticnetwork.org, we have a page called Learn Centers of Excellence. And what Learn has done is put together approximately 50 sites around the world that specialize in the whole spectrum of diagnosis, imagery, surgery. Each site has a different level of expertise and a different level of services offered, but you can visit the page and find the one nearest you. And there's information on how to make an appointment, how to contact them, their website, their treatment programs.
Could you drop the link in the chat, Veronica?
Absolutely.
Thank you. Go ahead, Catherine.
Can I just tap in off of that?
Yeah.
Don't limit yourself just to one center to check out. Really kind of try to check out several of them, because you don't really know exactly what each physician or center's protocols are. And you want to make sure that if you're really looking into a surgical option, that the protocol that the physician is using fits into your way of life, instead of your way of life trying to fit into the surgeon's protocols, because it makes it more difficult if you have to adjust the way you are into their protocols. Whereas if you have a doctor who's got the experience that you need and they have a protocol that fits directly into your lifestyle, it makes it 10 times easier to work with overall.
That's a really good point. Thank you, Catherine.
As far as other patient information is concerned, so part of my role, or my role at Learn, is patient services. So what I do all day long is talk to patients from around the world, primarily from the United States, but I can get a question from anywhere. And we provide resources and links. So I do want to share another page that's called Living with Lymphedema and Lymphatic Disease. And that will give you not only the centers of excellence, but resource downloads, frequently asked questions, our Learn Symposia, the virtual expo where LymphaPress companies like LymphaPress are featured, where you can learn more information without a salesy, so to speak, approach. It's more about the education about what various products do. And then things like World Lymphedema Day information. So I really encourage all patients to visit that page and bookmark it, save it on your phone. It really has a wealth of information.
Thank you, Veronica. And we've got a message from Leslie Keith, a reminder that the virtual event, A Fresh Take on Lipedema and Lymphedema Solutions, hosted by Lipedema Simplified, is on March 31st and then April 1 through the 2nd. And Catherine and Kelly are speaking, and LymphaPress is a sponsor of the event also. So Leslie put a link in the chat for that. I'll include this link and the links from Veronica in the replay email that will go out in a few days with the recording too. So if you don't catch them now, they'll be sent to your inbox in a few days.
Yeah.
And we did get a question during that conversation from Dee from Florida, who says, my LymphaPress feels like a life ring. Question, the press helps with the swelling below my knees. Suggestions on what can I do about the swelling above my knees? I know Karen loves modifications.
Well, I think my first question would be, do you use leg sleeve appliances or are you using a pantsuit appliance? Because the leg sleeve appliances are great for managing swelling below the knees and even the knees and the lower thighs. But people who have upper thigh swelling, abdominal, genital swelling, buttock swelling can really benefit from using the pantsuit. So that would be my question, is what appliance are you using? And then I'd also be curious, what other things are you doing for your lymphedema when you're not using the pump? What kind of compression garments do you have? Are you using any kind of manual lymphatic drainage? But I think my first question is, I'm suspecting that maybe you just have the leg sleeves and that may not be enough for you.
That's a good distinction to make.
Mhm.
I didn't realize that because I use the leg sleeves and I would think like, oh yeah, my upper legs are getting it, but that makes sense that you need the full appliance for all of that. Well, I'd love to swing back to our previous conversation now that we have more people on the panel joining, about things that you wish you knew in the beginning of your lymphedema journey. Okay. Angela.
I was diagnosed in 2019 with secondary lymphedema. And when you hear that you have something that has no cure, that's very difficult to really hear and absorb that. And the thing I wish I had known and paid attention to was you have to manage it. I didn't pay attention to just 3 words, manage the condition. And consequently, I tried so many magical elixirs and tinctures and pills and lotions. And, I did all these things because in my mind, you said there's no cure, but do you really think I believe that? Because I have a tendency to try, just push the envelope really until I see for myself. So over time, I've really had to learn and develop respect for manage the condition. And it saves a lot of grief. It helps you get through the hills and valleys if you just manage the condition and accept that that's your responsibility. That's really what you have to do. So that's the thing that I wish I had known, understood, and accepted.
I wish I knew that too, because I feel like we're in such denial also when we're first diagnosed. I was born with lymphedema, but I wasn't diagnosed till I was 14. And being a teenager already, you just want to buck everything that you're told to do and just, whatever. But I ignored it for so long, and I got a lot of fibrotic tissue as a result of untreated lymphedema. And I really wish I had heard that early on too. Amanda, I saw your hand up.
I'm the same as Angela. I think we all hear the word there's no cure, and then you just go right down that black hole. I wish somebody would say, okay, there's no cure, but there's still so much that you can do. And I would have focused on what Angela said, and same with Alexa. And you're right, you went to do all those elixirs and all those things, and you tried every fad out there because you thought, well, for me, I was a secondary case. It appeared out of nowhere. So in my brain, I thought, oh, if it came out of nowhere, it has to disappear out of nowhere. And then obviously when it didn't, that was a whole other chain of events. But there is just so much. And I think too, I fell in love with myself more based on just managing it. I fell in love because, again, I think the older that we get, you take for granted what you have, right? Like if my mobility was getting further out of control and if I was losing certain functions, that's really scary. So the more that I did and the more mobile that I got and the more that I regained by just doing basic steps every day was just a game changer. And I really want to pass that forward to anybody watching, that it's just never too late. There is something that you can do. And it always just starts with one small decision. Don't try to do all of the decisions, but just one small decision to do something healthy for yourself. And it just really, truly ends up being hopefully a better experience.
Veronica, I saw you raising your hand.
Just to add on to there, I wish, see, my dad and I were diagnosed by a billboard in 1998. I was driving down the freeway and I saw a billboard that had two legs that looked like my father's one leg. So my parents made the appointment. We both go together. But at that point, my foot would only swell really towards the end of the day. My foot and my ankle, my shoe would get tight. It wasn't anything like really crazy like my father, who had it all the way up, to the groin, because it had taken 25 years for him to get diagnosed. Well, in that moment, and this is not a knock on the CLT at all, because again, we're talking 1998, before Google, before the internet and all of that. We're just in an information era. They agreed to treat my father, but for me, they literally said, don't worry, kid, you're thin, you're fit, you'll never be as bad as your dad. And so I'm 5'2", and at the time I was probably like 105 pounds soaking wet. I was just this little bitty thing in my early 20s. And that gave me a false level of complacency that I think still kind of permeates our society today, that if you're under a certain BMI or whatever, that your disease will not progress. And that is completely false. Do not fall for anyone who will tell you, oh, don't worry about it, you'll be fine. You're not overweight, you don't have this risk factor, you don't have that. No, every patient deserves at least a basic level of education on how to manage lymphedema, number one. And number two, I wish I had known how to advocate for myself and speak up. Now, when I go to the doctor, no matter what it is, I challenge, I ask questions, I say, okay, well, do you have someone I can see for a second opinion, a third opinion? Like, I don't take information at face value anymore. That's what I wish I would have done.
Thanks, Veronica. And Catherine, before I go to you, I want to read this comment we just got from Natasha in the chat. Natasha says, this is my first roundtable. My situation is generational too. My mother was never diagnosed with it. They just saw her as morbidly obese. I watched her experience cellulitis and sepsis and pneumonia type issues from 2013 to 2016. I advocated for her without even knowing that the same future was coming for me. Doctors failed me and they still do. I hope this is the first step to me prolonging my life, because my sister is also big and I can see the start of it on my daughter. I was diagnosed with lipedema/obesity stage 2 to 3 in fall 2022. I want to fix the doctors and change their mindsets. I thank you all for letting me know that there are lipedema therapists. I struggle to get into my lymphopress pieces, but I will try to start doing it every day. I get depressed because I have so many problems. Comorbidities is what they say. I've gone through over 20 doctors/specialists since 2017. I know the truth, but they don't believe me. I'm tired of being ignored. God bless you all. Natasha, we are so glad you're here with us tonight, and so many parts of your story, I think, resonate with many people, not just on the panel, but in the audience too. And tomorrow night is our Lymphedema Patient Roundtable, so I encourage you to check that out if you can, because I think you'll find a lot there as well. But we're so glad you're here, and we're so sorry also what you've gone through. Catherine.
So one thing for me, because I was diagnosed as a child after cancer treatment. So I'm a secondary lymphedema patient, but most people, when they think of it, because I was diagnosed at age 8, they automatically assume that I'm primary, which made it very difficult for me to be able to get treatment. Back in 1990, there was no pediatric lymphedema therapist. There was physical medicine and rehab docs, but they weren't seeing pediatric patients, unfortunately. So I'm really glad to see now how much the lymphatic community has changed over the course of the last 30 years in terms of that they're diagnosing and treating pediatric patients now comparatively, because my lymphedema went untreated for 2090 to 2005, so about 15 years. So as a result, I also developed some severe fibrotic tissue because of not getting the treatment that I needed. The only thing they would tell me was, go to physical therapy, go play sports, go do this, keep it moving, and everything will be okay. But in the end, it really wasn't, because it was, I'll call it the silent devil, that it was causing problems underneath that we didn't realize were happening. And as a result, unfortunately, I became septic 7 times with infection. So we have no idea how I'm still here because of it. So, you know, you really want to really seek treatment as early as possible. You know, if you have that suspicion that something's going on, really try to get in with a certified lymphedema therapist as soon as possible. Get them to get you the devices that will help with the condition so you can better manage it yourself, so you don't rely on those things.
I think it's so interesting how a lot of us are kind of diagnosed in these sort of by chance ways, like Veronica with the billboard. And when I was a kid, so again, I was taking all these specialists in the early 90s and no one knew what it was. And it wasn't until my mom had a friend who was a plastic surgeon, and she was over for dinner one night, and I had been teased already. I went to an all-girls Catholic school at the time, so rife for, you know, criticism and bullying. And I was teased for my cankle, and it destroyed me. And so when my mom's friend was over for dinner, I was begging her, like, is there any surgery you can do to make my leg smaller? Because I'm tired of getting teased, you know, I don't know what to do. Like, can you do something on my leg? And she took one look at it and she poked it. I remember the puffiness, and she said, oh, don't let anybody cut into that. Like, you have lymphedema, that's fluid, because her dad had it because he had cancer. And so I remember going upstairs to my desktop computer and searching it, and it was all just the really extreme photos of people with swelling and lymphatic filariasis and all of that. And it was terrifying. And we've come so far in this information age, as Veronica said, and with the social media communities and everything, but there's still people who don't even know that this community exists. Like, we hear all the time from people in the roundtable, or those of us that are on social media will get comments or messages. I didn't know there were other people like me. I didn't know that there was a whole community. I didn't know we had a month named after us, Lymphedema Awareness Month. You know, it's amazing that there's still people that don't know, and it, I think, drives all of us that are here tonight. You know, that's why we show up and we do this and we try and reach those people. But community is really half the battle. It buoys us so much through this, and life, you don't have to suffer with lymphedema. You can live with it and live really fully, and everybody, you know, is a testament to that. We all have our bad days, obviously, but you're not alone, and it's not a death sentence if you just, like Angela said, manage the condition. Like Amanda said, you know, you need to know that you can have these options, you can do it. We just want you all to know that if there's one thing you take away from tonight, it's that you are supported and there are options for you. So that's my little spiel.
That's a good one. Because I mean, everybody has their accidental. I actually fought. I knew I had lymphatic issues because I had to start researching it, right? And then, just like everybody else, you fight to try to figure out what's wrong, whether you're doing the research or not. When you find out and that word comes out, lymphedema, you're like, I'm diagnosed. That lasts until you get to the next doctor, just so you know, who goes, I don't know. Like, what are you talking about? So it still happens today. It happened 13 years ago when I was finally diagnosed. That's why I advocate, and that's why Veronica, she's trying to change like what her family's gone through. I mean, it's like, so yes, we all experience that. And I've seen 61 doctors now. And like, I can tell you, I'm the expert in the room because they really had no idea what to do with me. So.
Robin in the chat just said, in 2022, I had a vascular surgeon tell me, oh, you might have a bit of lymphedema, but don't look it up. It's scary. Oh my God, Robin.
So why aren't you trying to help treat it?
Right.
That's where I flip.
Oh my gosh. That's crazy.
I had someone write in today that asked me if it was possible to have lymphedema of the breast because her doctor told her that she had lymphedema of the breast, but not to worry about it because there was nothing that could be done.
Oh my gosh. That's insane. It's crazy.
There I start typing.
I know. Yeah. You've come to the right place.
To put those sentences together, don't worry about it. There's nothing to be done.
Yes.
Just blew the hope out of everybody, out of your mind. Early intervention, you know, when I first started the company in '94, okay, the number of patients that we were seeing were patients that got to stage 4 because nobody was advocating early intervention when they started seeing the condition start to pop up. Doctors weren't diagnosing it until it got to something that was really severe, and then it might have been almost too late, you know, to start working on it. Now, you know, people know stage 1, even if you're not getting the heavy disease as it manifests, you have to start early intervention and treating it right away. Finding a doctor who will work with you. That's good. You know, that's professional in that particular way to start getting you help that you need, whether it be the pump, whether it be the therapist. But early intervention is always a good idea. Number one, it gets managed quickly. And number two, there's a less likelihood of it progressing to the later stages because you're managing it in the very, very beginning.
Yeah, the earlier you can start and be really consistent with your treatment, whatever it is that works for you. Consistency is key.
Yep.
With lymphedema. Go ahead, Catherine.
And if you think that something's not right, be persistent about it. Because if I would have just let go when I had some crazy symptoms going on 1.5 years ago, I wouldn't be where I am right now because of it. I had to sit there and fight and fight and fight. And the very first thing that they had me do was just get a CT of my abdomen and pelvis because of the fact that my abdomen was swelling. Well, the radiologist who read it didn't have a clue about lymphedema, and his findings were, well, it might be constipation. Clearly I knew that was not the case, but you know, when you have a radiologist who doesn't understand and doesn't know what they're looking at, it makes it 10 times harder. So then luckily I had a group that was willing, after I sat and fought with them, hey, I need you to really image this. I'm not giving up. So can we just image it just for fun? And finally they did. And Kelly can tell you, Kelly can attest to this. They didn't think they were going to find something. And then when they did, they were in complete shock.
Yeah, what Catherine's talking about is central lymphatics. When we talk about those, we're really talking about the ones in the gut, the one that like where most of the lymph action in the body is actually made. And so that's what we're going to be talking about at that conference, that lymphedema conference. So if you're curious about it, that's the surgery she had that got her repaired. My thoracic duct significantly blocked, and in the places it's blocked, they cannot do anything yet. And I say yeah because I'm persistent. I'm not going to give up. I have faith. And what's funny is Catherine doesn't know this, but the same month she was having her surgery, there was an employee at Penn getting the same surgery. And they're doing an article about it. There's an article on their website. I was talking to Dr. Icken last night.
Oh,
It just came out. And it's called A Mystery Illness, a puzzle solved, a beloved colleague and cured. I'm going to post this because I want you guys to see like what her journey was. And she's fortunate she worked there, because I can honestly tell you, this is the only place this happens. She actually had a flare up in after a trip, started developing all these issues, read her symptoms and stuff. This is the same stuff I battled. Just to be honest with you, I battled it for 17 years. And if she wasn't where she was, she wouldn't have gotten intervention and she got it fixed. But it was really wound up being a thoracic duct issue. So we got a lot to learn. And that's why it's so awesome that like we have the stuff going on at NIH, their first ever in-house lymphatic research treatment. We have the DoD program. We got lymphatics on there, so they're competing with money. I mean, there's things happening and people are getting interested. So stay tuned and stay involved.
We have,
Can I brag? Oh,
yeah, go ahead, Amanda.
up in Canada, I don't think people understand, like, even though that we're the land of free healthcare, there's actually no coverage, especially here in the province of Manitoba. But I ended up becoming the president for the Lymphedema Association of Manitoba. So for World Lymphedema Day, we lit up the legislature building and we had 4 members of parliament come out and serve us hot chocolate and commend us for still pushing that envelope. We actually were invited to assembly that very same day, where we had a full entire standing ovation of 57 parliament members hearing the word lymphedema, getting a 2-minute bio of what the condition is, how that it's completely under-recognized in Manitoba. And it really starts from every single person who's watching. I think we want that change and we don't know what to do, and getting involved with any organization. There's associations all across Canada. Get involved, make a difference. And I just think the more people that hear this word lymphedema, we get proper diagnosis instead of being misconstrued as obesity, right? Like that it's not, sometimes it is obviously tied in with obesity issues, but getting misdiagnosed and not getting the proper help and the proper treatment is such a game changer. And I really am so grateful for things like LymphaPress. I'm so grateful for everyone's advocacy efforts. And really we're doing such an amazing job, and just thanks so much, because here in Manitoba, we're starting to finally make an impact, and it's just catching fire now. And we hope to catch up to all of you Americans that are just finally getting the Lymphedema Act that was passed last year. So that is
awesome. Because
amazing,
I have
Amanda.
talked to tons of people from Canada, and like I'm flabbergasted. It's not they don't know. They're like they don't know. They don't care.
Mhm.
And so I'm like, oh, we have these groups, and they're like, we don't know what you're doing. And I'm like, I didn't even know there was a tool, because I don't know your government system. I've worked with your
Don't worry, neither do we. No, just kidding.
But it's really cool. You guys can advocate for things like that. So if you're from Canada, join Amanda. Seriously, that's how things happen. And it doesn't happen quick, just so you know.
Yeah, it doesn't happen quick, but I just think that for people, the main message was don't give up hope. But I also think it's a really big part, because so many people sit at home feeling lost, feeling hopeless. They want things to change, but you can still sit there on social media, access these associations. How can I help? Every little bit, even just taking a pamphlet to your doctor, to your therapist, to your chiropractor, to a friend, to the pharmacist, to a loved one, makes a huge difference. So please just don't sit there. We really need everybody on deck, everybody on deck to help with this whole taking that next step forward. Because again, lymphatics could be a swelling in the toe, right? Or it could be your whole entire body. It happens everywhere that you have skin. No matter how big or how small, you matter.
Love that. And that's amazing, Amanda. Congratulations with what you and your group are doing. And I think it's important to note too that some people, are a little more shy or a little intimidated at the idea of doing these kind of advocacy efforts. I'm a big believer that even going out in public with your compression garment visible is an act of awareness. It's an act of normalizing what it looks like to see someone with compression on. And I was at an airport once and I saw this woman buy baggage claim. She was on my flight and I noticed her already. She had a compression garment on her arm. And then I saw her at baggage claim later and I was like, I'm going to say something. So I was pointing to my leg and I was like, hey, like I wear compression too. And she was like, oh yeah, like I had breast cancer, so I wear this for flying. And it was just a neat little moment of connection and seeing like someone on the same team kind of out in public.
And bravery. Sorry.
It's funny, we don't have to have our own outfit or t-shirts.
Right.
Oh,
Well, if you want a t-shirt, I sell these. No, I'm just kidding. In our last 5 minutes, I want to go around the panel and kind of spin the question around and say, what is something you wish others knew when you were first diagnosed with lymphedema, about lymphedema? Who would like to start? Not all at once.
Okay, I'll go so here's again, going back to what Amanda's doing and what I'm doing is we always heard complaining about doctors not knowing, people not knowing, funds not being there. And well, that's why they're not there, is because there's no funds. So if you do know doctors working in that field, be very supportive, not condemning of them. Because they are working in a field that is very underfunded. And so I wish I'd learned earlier. That's why I wish I got involved earlier, to try to make differences earlier so we could be further, in my opinion. Because as a person starting out with their career, they're going to go where their money's at. And if there's no money in lymphedema, who on here would accept a career where there's no funding? Well, there's been a lot of doctors that are doing that. They really are literally piecing together. All these therapists down here are actually working in a very unfunded, very limited resource field. Right, you guys are all overworked. It's not, they're not, it's there. So the way to change all that is by us making this important. Let people know. And so, yes, by wearing your compression garments, it's pretty cool. That's what I wish I learned earlier.
Thank you.
I wish that I tried to not be normal. I really didn't feel or know how to explain how this condition affected me. I was very isolated for 17 years, literally. I stayed in my bedroom on social media from time to time trying to reach out, but I didn't know how to go to my family events. I didn't know how to go be with my friends. I didn't know how to be with other people normally. When you do manage this condition, you start to eat differently, or you start to wear different clothes or shoes. You start to pick places where you don't show up because it's standing room only. You really do change your lifestyle. And I tried to be normal, and I didn't fit in with the normal people. Sorry, that probably is not the right word. And I didn't know where to fit into the lymphatic community because I don't know, I just was very awkward. So I think if I were to try to explain this to my family, try to have good, healthy conversations, try to find those people that can support you, and just know that you're okay. And if you don't get support at the first place or the first stone that you turn, keep going. Lymphopress is here. These roundtables are here. We're all here. There are people that are listening. There are people who really do care. But yeah, I think for the whole family aspect, I didn't talk about my condition. I didn't talk about how much pain I was in, because people were just like, oh, it's some swelling, get over it. Right. So I tried to fit a mold, and that was very depressing on my end.
And Nazarene, I saw you had a hand up.
Just say I don't have lymphedema, but as a therapist, I would like to just say that in the beginning, I would tell my patients, if you do A, B, and C, everything will be great. I can figure it all out. And then just to know that there's going to be trial and error with it. And then for everyone to know not to give up when that does happen. I wish in the beginning I knew to tell people that a little bit more, because I think I frustrated the heck out of a ton of people, because they thought I was going to fix them with just 4 weeks of therapy and everything would be better. And I messed up a lot and people got really frustrated. But to know that sometimes that, your lymphatic load's going to change, things will change constantly. Now I can kind of approach it differently when I do talk to people, although I do still run into things I don't know what to do with from time to time, but I can say that to people too.
I love that. Thanks, Nazarene. We can go a little bit over 9 o'clock. So if you want to hang on with us while we finish up our roundabout, go ahead, Catherine.
So one of the things for
Okay.
me was I was very shy, as Veronica had said, about my lymphedema when I first met her in 2017. I am definitely the furthest from a shy person now, to the point where I don't typically have normal colored compression garments. They are very bright and vibrant now. So that this way people can ask me about it, and this way I can kind of use it to teach. And I've taught a lot of people, a lot of airline people about what lymphedema is and how it can affect them being there on the planes all the time with the different pressures. So I learned to come out of my shell. And now there's kind of really no stopping me about coming out of my shell.
There's no pushing you back in the shell.
No.
He's out. Veronica.
I think what I would share with someone who is newly diagnosed is the understanding that this is a long haul disease. And as you age with it, the set of obstacles or issues that you deal with change over time. And it's important to maintain your relationship with your CLT, because just like you're not a one and done we typically go on an annual basis or on a fairly regular basis to take care of our oral care. We do the same thing with our lymphatics. You know, the issues that I faced in my 20s were not the same issues that I faced in my 30s. And now I'll be 49 in May. And I've now had lymphedema longer than, you know, I was diagnosed when I was 20. So it really does evolve. And the set of questions that you get evolve. When I was in my 20s, I'd explain to my college friends why I had this, and my coworkers early. Then when I got married, I'd explain to my in-laws, and then I'd explain, you know, it goes on and on with the community that you meet as you age and as you engage with different sets of friends. So not to force anybody to accept it, but that there's you should understand that you're going to change how you feel about it over time, and that's okay. Like Angela said, hills and valleys, and different problem solving approaches to different issues.
Thanks, Veronica. Angela. Oh, Karen's raising her hand, so you gotta pass for a few minutes. Go ahead, Karen.
So what I would tell someone who is newly diagnosed is that don't give up hope and keep asking for help. And if you are working with someone and you don't feel that you're getting anywhere, keep going, keep looking. And learn, you know, we've talked about Learn All Evening. Oh my gosh, it's such an amazing resource. And, you know, they have centers of excellence where you can have highly trained clinicians working with you. And it's worth traveling to get the care that you need if that's what it takes. But don't give up hope.
I love that. Steve.
Yeah. Hey, on the insurance side, on getting a pump and getting it paid for, I've seen over the years, in the very beginning, stage 1 was very difficult to get covered. It didn't manifest. It wasn't as difficult. There wasn't a lot of complications. But over the years, especially Lymphopress, and I don't know about all the other companies, but we have worked so hard to teach and to get the insurance companies to realize how early these patients need to get this device. And we've been able to get a lot of approvals over the last couple of years, where some years before we weren't able to do that because it didn't show like it would show in stage 2 or 3 or anything like that. So early intervention, like we talked about before, is important. And we've been very successful in getting pumps to people when they first start seeing the condition arise, and the doctors are able to put the information together that we need. And anyone that has it and is going to a doctor and would like to get a pump, get the doctor to help out. You know, be an advocate for yourself, just like you are when you go to a doctor, you know, any day, to get all the information you need. And we've been able to get a lot of approvals on stage 1 in the very beginning. and therefore prevents all the other things that can happen later on.
Steve. Angela, you want to bring us home?
What I wish other people knew about lymphedema is that it's a true condition. I had someone recently to tell me that they had a friend who had lymphedema and their doctor got rid of it. And what they were talking about, of course, was edema. And so I wish that when people don't know, just test the water and perhaps ask and not assume.
Great. Thank you, Angela. This night went by so quickly, or even overtime. Everybody, those who know, and those who don't, we're here every month, second Tuesday of the month, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We send a recording of this roundtable out about a few days, a week at most afterwards, after we get it all polished up and on YouTube for you. So keep your eyes on your inbox for that. We're just so grateful you all are here. We hope you had a fantastic evening with us tonight, a great Lymphedema Awareness Month. Month's not over yet, so do whatever little bits of awareness you can, and we'd love to hear what you did next month. Share with us how you raised awareness. And Sandy asked if we can get a copy of the links shown here. I will include those in the email when it goes out about a week from now, tops. You'll get that email, and I'll include all the links that Veronica and Leslyn shared. And we're just so elated that you're here tonight. Oh, yeah, go ahead, Veronica.
I do have, to the links, I do have an announcement. We're coming out with a very patient-centric focus solution that's going to drop by the end of April. I can't give all the details, but be sure to pay attention to the Learn newsletter or e-blast towards the end of April for a very special program that we're rolling out specifically for patients.
Isn't there a walk in April?
Oops. Oh my gosh.
I think there's one
Yes,
walk in
there's
April. isn't
also a walk. There is also a walk. We're having a global virtual walk on April the 22nd. We're also having walks in Colorado, California, Philly, and the virtual one. So there's 4 walks. You can go to lymphwalk.org for information on those different ones.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that, Veronica. We will wait with
Thank
bated
you
breath.
for having me.
We're so glad you were here, and Steve for joining us too again.
I love this roundtable. I love everybody on it. I think all of you are fantastic. Steve, it was an absolute pleasure meeting you. Please keep these roundtables going, and I will continue to refer people here for the monthly Tuesday night session.
Thanks so much, Veronica. And thanks to all our panelists being here tonight. We appreciate your time and your knowledge and expertise each month, and all of our attendees too, our regulars and our first timers, and hopefully second, third, fourth timers. We love this time of the month. It's the best. We look forward to it every time. So with that, we've eaten up enough of extra time. So we're going to let everybody go and enjoy the rest of their evening or their day wherever they are in the world. But thank you so much for being here. Have a wonderful rest of your Lymphedema Awareness Month, and we'll see you
Thanks,
in
guys.
April. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.